Okay, so a franchisee of ours has suggested they'd like to do a bit of an audit on their RRP produced from iProx versus what a likely bill of quantities would actually cost. They've got their price point set quite low in iProx, and we just want to really see where their market sits. I think they're currently set at about 0.96, 0.95, and we're trying to see if we can just get it down that extra percent, because they'd really like to target that $1,000 a square meter. So the simplest way to do that would be to actually do a bill of quantities in Build.iQ of the home, estimate it as if it was a paying client, go through all the same steps, do the slab, do estimated frame and truss, even potentially get quotations for frame and truss if it's a design that you foresee yourself selling often, and then arriving at I guess a cost price, adding your GST, adding an indicative margin, and seeing how we actually compare to what they're currently set at. So I'm just going to set this to QLD and bugger that off. So this Excel document was pre-filled by an estimator of mine for me, so I'm just going to quickly go through and check the contents of it. We obviously can't do final slab quantities or final reinforcing. We just have to work on square meter rates because we don't have engineering. But in terms of bricks, windows, cladding, tiling, you name it, we can punch through that without too much difficulty. So let's have a look here. So the house size overall is 226.93, and they're really targeting that $1,000 a square meter mark. So I guess it's safe to say on that basis that the proposed contract price would be $229,290 thereabouts. Sorry, 226,950. So 226,950. Now we're just going to disregard this here for the time being because this obviously relates to New South Wales and doesn't seem to be working as it should. Queensland have their own published price list by the government, so we're just going to disregard that entirely. It's a single story. We're assuming it's timber frame. The external perimeter according to plans is 64.4. The inside edge, you can either A, get that directly off an ArchiCAD schedule, or B, you can physically go around with your snap guides and measure the inside edge of the timber frame. Now the reason we're doing this is many trades only work on the inside face, obviously after the frames go in, plasterers for example, plasterboard supply, etc., etc. We're not ordering it for the cavity, so we really want to know what this perimeter and what this area is. So 62.4. Internal wall frames is 82.89 according to it. So once again, you can get that straight off the ArchiCAD schedule, or you can zoom around through your center points and then add them all up. So I've just got a calculator going off screen. Now we're going to be measuring straight through these robes because there's still a head that needs to be put in. Once again, the areas for your plasterboard and the like can either be calculated from these known overall lengths, or alternatively can be calculated or can be provided by the quantity sheet out of ArchiCAD. I'm assuming for all intents and purposes this is an owner set of plans and that we don't have this information being provided to us. I'm also measuring the center line because it's, I guess, effectively the fairest. The more you use the software and the more you use your scroll wheel and your shift and control keys, the better the operation of PDF Exchange Editor. You hold shift to maintain a straight line. Which makes navigating a lot easier. And use control by holding it in to zoom in and out by rolling your finger on the scroll wheel on the mouse. The same applies to web browsers and such things. So same with the square set opening, I'm going to go straight through it. I'll deduct it later on for plasterboard calculations, but for frame and truss labor, they are essentially putting a beam in there and framing out ahead. So just having a good look over, making sure I haven't overlooked any. Certainly looks like I've measured all the walls, and I've come up with a total calculation of about 83.08. So a very, very, very minor discrepancy. Given this here has been provided in 3 digits, it may have actually been provided out of the software, I'm not sure. 90mm wall frames, which is our standard. It's assumed all of this, assume the brick veneer is 250 overall, which is correct, and it's done the entire perimeter. So it's taken the provided overall square meterage of the home, and it's calculated from its perimeter and its known cavity system thickness that the house itself has 16.10 meters squared of dead space around the perimeter of the living. So if you took the inside edge of the timber frame to the outer edge of the brickwork, the house has 16.1 square meters of unusable space occupied by brick, cavity, and timber frame. Meaning on a house like this, you've got very near to about 210 square meters of usable space. Now these areas here are straight off the plans, 158.09, 36.74, 27.62, and 4.48, perfect. The slab area we're going to assume is that plus the size of a gas bottle pad. Now, waffle slab, none of this stuff here really needs completing because, as I said, we don't have engineering yet. So we're just going to work on published square meter rates for reinforcing provided by One Steel. However, that may be able to come down a fraction once we actually have engineering and we can work out our exact steel lengths. Pardon me. Now the windows and doors, where they've all been drawn as nominal dowel standard sizes, and we're just going to go through and triple check that all these are classified correctly and that the correct deductions are taking place. So 21 by 49 for the garage door is correct. 160 by 49 is the 2 bricks placed in the rebate here that are being occupied by the driveway and therefore do not exist, so they've got to come out. 1000 by 350 is your hot water enclosure. Entry door 21 by 887. 887 is the door jamb size of an 820 door. 21 by 1810 must be this sliding door, and 21 by 3048 would be the supposedly the standard sizing for the 32 stacker. So I'm just going to check that off screen because it does seem a little bit shy, and potentially that door should be redrawn as a 2131 to avoid any client dissatisfaction. So it is indeed a 3048. So I'm just going to make a note of this to get this adjusted. Should be a 21 by 31 ST. Opening is 3048. And then we've got an 1800 by 850, which has been classified as a door. So this here is incorrect. It looks like this here is meant to start on window 1 and instead has been started prematurely. So we want to leave those extra blank because we don't have any other doors except for this one here, which is a 21 by 1450, which is probably this one here that's been misclassified as a window. Now, the choice between window, door, and other affects architrave. If there's a window, it assumes architrave to all sides on the inside. If it's a door, it obviously assumes it to the 2 sides and the top and nothing to the base. And if it's an other, it assumes no architrave at all. In the instance of this brickwork and meter box and enclosure, they actually don't penetrate through the wall and therefore don't need any treatment. So 1800 by 18 by 850, that's correct. There's 2 of those. 1200 by 1810. I can't see necessarily the order here. 1029 by 610. So I try to go consistently the same direction to avoid any confusion. So 1029 by 610, 1200 by 1810, 600 by 2050. So this is all over this joint. So 1200 by 1810, and then we've got 1800 by 850. Then we've got the 20, we've already done the sliding doors, so we've got a 20 by 09. So once again, I've just got the windows open off screen. Windows, sliding, it's a 2057. Uh, 900 is 850. And then a 1200 by a 1500 wide, which is actually a 1450. Now, obviously, these exact dimensions versus nominal dimensions can have a pretty substantial impact on your final brick calculations and the rounding. If windows are drawn as, say, 21s and are actually 2050s, and all the 1500s are drawn as 1500s, but they're actually 1450s, and so on and so forth. Now this one here, normally we draw it as 2115, which is a 2100 by 1450. 1029 is the height by 610. 1029 by 1450. We've already done that sliding door, and we've got another 1029 by 1810. So we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Entry door 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We are short by 2. So where have we gone wrong? I'm just going to compare side by side. 2100 by 887, 2100 by 1810, 2100 by 3048, and 2100 by 1450 is all of our sliding doors. 1800 by 850, 1800 by 850, 1000. Oh, we've missed the 500 high. Which is actually a 600 by 2050. Uh, 1029 by 610, 1200 by 18, and then we've got two 1800s by 850, then a 2057 by 850, a 1200 by 1450, another 1200 by 1450, 1029 by 610, 1029 by 1450, and we missed that 1200 by 1450 again. So that explains our discrepancy. There's no X light on the house, so we can disregard. Now the bricks are coming from Queensland, so I already have on another screen the price list open, and 460 is the nominal packed size for bricks supplied from Queensland, so that's correct. Now we've got dimension one of 2.24 by 64.4, which is probably not correct because there is a section there where there is bricks under on the alfresco with obviously brickwork over the sliding doors and vice versa. So I would hazard a guess here this is pretty wrong. So really we need to be breaking the house down into differing lengths with differing heights. So in this instance here we've got, and now I always like to enter the finished floor level to the underside of the eaves as 1 plus the rebate, and that way if the slab height changes and I've got to revise the rebate height, I can just go in and change that calculation without having to change the whole figure. So we've got 2.08 plus, which is actually a little bit of a concern. Obviously, there's going to have to be an upstand on all these trusses to fit 2100 sliding doors in, based upon this pitch and this drop off. So we've got what he's drawn there is really not actually correct. This here has to be no less than 2100 neat to fit sliding doors in. It's just been drawn that way indicatively, whereas really it should be drawn with a 1500 upstand on it. Trusses should be drawn with a, as we require, no less than 2100. So equals 2.1 plus 0.16 being the rebate. And now we're going to take from the concrete section, which obviously doesn't have as substantial of a rebate, right here, all the way along to the next concrete. So we've got 30.19. And then we've got another section here, which is the same. 18.69. Now we've got the porch, which is at a 75 mil step down rather than a 160, but the ceiling is at porch level, so there's at eave level, so there's no brickwork over. So we take the dimension of it, which hasn't quite snapped right. There we go, which is 4.3. And it's that plus 0.075. And then we have the alfresco, which has the same step down, but also has brickwork to full height, which is actually going to be 2440. And it is 11.19. So we've ended up with quite a wasteful home in terms of the way the brick rounding works. We are at pretty much 90% of a pack. So to account for wastage, we're having to order an entire pack. So we're going to end up with, in theory, about 500 bricks in excess of the raw quantity required to go into the wall. But obviously all it would take is slightly more than potentially 50 damaged or broken bricks. And then you'd run short and you'd have issues with batches. So ideally, I like to keep this figure between 5 and 10% at most. But when you're dealing with pack sizes and you can't have half packs, it's sometimes just entirely unavoidable. All right, so we've done that. All the bricks are coming out of the same thing. It's all the same brick all the way through. There's no brick piers. We can just move on. We've got our brick quantities and our brick calcs. Ceiling voids, none. We're assuming the ceilings are not actually battened. Now it's going to give an error, but that's fine. We don't need to worry about that at all. Standard ceiling height of 2.44, that's correct. Now in terms of internal to external junctions for our plasterboard deductions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, so that's correct. Now these areas here are presumably, by the looks of it, straight off the calculation sheet out of ArchiCAD. Which I've just received. So it's the total of this one plus that one. I can safely say that it's probably correct. Bear with me one moment. I'm just going to open up a separate Excel and add those numbers together. Ordinarily, there should be a totals field there, but we haven't been given that in this instance. So just select all those, paste that into Excel, and then auto sum it. So at 153.29 and 158.97, which are exactly correct. Now, as you'll note here, the software is assuming you only enter one side of the wall in, and then it doubles the quantity. In this instance here, the calc sheet is suggesting that there's a slight discrepancy between the square meterage of the walls internally, just due to the way they intersect, the number of intersections into each other. If one side of a wall has a lot of intersections and the other side doesn't, when it gives you the calculations, it gives you the area calculated net of all the openings and intersections for both sides. So what we've done here is we've added the two together, and then we've divided by 2 to take an average. In this instance here, we've just referenced that cell and we've added the total quantity of openings on all of those walls, which if I also, oh my God, undo, paste into here, into this separate Excel, and auto sum is 43.31. So that's exactly correct. Now the square set ceiling length, that doesn't actually have to be there. Potentially the estimator's seen the square set opening and has assumed that needs to be added. This does a deduction from the cornice. Now a square set ceiling or square set opening, what it's implying is that there is a dropped ceiling that is square set around the beam at that point. The cornice itself still carries on at full height either side. So we don't actually want to put this 1.52 in as a square set rate, because it will then deduct that from the cornice quantities. Now this here's obviously looking at some other cells I'll check on in a moment. Ceiling deductions. Now the internal side of the garage is 33.37 according to this, which looks like it might be about right. We don't want to do the overall area, we only want to do the inside area in this instance, because if we don't, we will end up double deducting the cavity. We've already deducted the cavity off the total area, so we don't want to do that. So I've got 32.55, assuming the insulation carries through on the store. Wall insulation required, I'm going to assume no, or sorry, no, yes, but none to the external walls, or sorry, none to the internal garage or external garage. So 11.86. So wants to know the internal length of garage walls, which in this instance would be this one here, 12.66. Now that opening is the internal door, 0.82, yep. And then 11.86, and this here would be the, ooh, that's presumably only the door but not the window as well, which I'm assuming is that one there, which is I. 250. Nope. 246. Yes. So I'll check that one in a moment. And now the external perimeter would be starting at that wall and running around to where the insulation would theoretically start again, 11.93. And that looks good. All right, tiling I'll check in a moment. That's a lot of doors. And by the looks of it, there's potentially been double data entry here. We don't need to enter the Roebel-Linn doors in both locations. Otherwise, we do inadvertently end up with double deductions. But none of this stuff here is going to affect me just pumping through the BOQ for the moment. So I'll save this. And then have a look at these total figures versus what's currently been exploded. So bear with me one moment. 6318.18. Now this would normally come in with the explosion, but unfortunately the estimator didn't know what the estimated sale price was at the time of the explosion. TV antenna, we're going to assume that's definitely required. The house clean, that should be based upon the square meterage that we previously calculated, 178.73 and 32.1, so that's correct. Floor coverings, we have the carpet, but then we also have hard floor coverings, the vinyl plank, which is that one there. And then we also need to add floor preparation. Once again, this would normally come in with the explosions. 64.31, and while this is shown as main floor tiles, it's actually meant to be vinyl of 57.72. Which is under the allowance, but we need to allow some slab preparation just in case. And this item here, this heading, has been archived but needs to be deleted because it's still showing up in the explosion. So I'm just going to fix that off screen. Auxiliaries, templates. So we'll get rid of those. Which will stop them coming in the future. Now what I'm seeing here is a discrepancy between the prices on these two items, which means there's something wrong there. Brisbane, for example, shouldn't have any freight at all on its floor coverings. So there is something wrong with the pricing on this job. Potentially it hasn't had its postcode set, and so the software is getting confused. So Ipswich postcode switch QLD is 4305. So we need to set that in the job. Otherwise, we won't get correct pricing. And if we now come back here to 870 and reprice this, we're now getting no freight charges, which is correct. So site clean, that's calculated as an allowance based upon the house size. External concrete labor, we've had the same set figure, anywhere up to 82 square meters, so that's not going to change. The earthworks is based upon a square meterage rate, which we've assumed is 39 to 49 square meters. Sorry, 40 to 49 square meters, I believe, in the iProx. So we'll assume worst case scenario there. Now you'll see I've got to go back and do this. That's a current open bug. Concrete pump, just a one-off. Concrete supply, it's obviously he's put in 10 square meters, which is where it's come up with this price, which is not correct. So it is 49 times 0.125 times by 1.1, which is actually 6.8 meters cubed, and Borrell will bring in the pricing. Reinforcing, we'll have to work that out manually in a moment. Driveway fill, 49 times, say, 0.05. You're looking at about 3 cube. All right, now there was no air conditioning proposed in this, so I'm just going to delete this BOQ item cost center altogether. Fly screens we'll have to work out separately. Lighting and fans are off the plan. 22 downlights. Now that rate applies for that range. These areas have come in off the plans. Now our plans currently show 8 downpipes, which is probably more representative of Sydney or some of our western locations. In Brisbane, this house with the rainfall ratings would probably have closer to about 14 downpipes. Now, paint or stain for external timber doors, there's only one external door. Timber posts, there is 4. Eaves, we were going to check in the calc sheet, so I may as well do that now. So 69.52, perfect. 32.1, 178.73. We'll have a quick look through here and see if anything else sticks out. Now we have a 2100 door with 75 mil step down, and it doesn't look like this door's actually been lowered to the step down. Door has a step down. Should have FC infill over. So we need one of those. Otherwise, everything else is fine. I'm a fit off. Now it's a standard house, 2 bathrooms, no extra fixtures, no double bowl vanities, nothing flash, no extra showers. So we don't need to pay for anything extra there. So this is all just standard specs. Sanitary, 2 toilet rolls, 3 of those, which is correct. Should be 2 sink mixers because we need one for the laundry. Shower mixers, we need 3 because we need one for the bath. Basin mixers is 2, bath outlets 1, 2 overhead showers, 2 rails, 2. Don't need any towel rings because there's no powders. Standard appliances, 2 toilets, 1 water filter. Perfect. So we've got the classic, which is our laundry tub. We've got a kitchen sink left-hand bowl, which is correct. We have 2 chrome wastes for our vanities, freestanding bath, and that's wrong. That's the one for the bath, and this is the one for the vanities. We'll just set this to Regency for the time being because there's some pricing, but I'll circle back and fix that because Darren actually pays a lot less than that. Tiling we need to still do. Cabinet maker we need to make a guesstimate on. Final fit labor. There's a letterbox included in the base price, but nothing else, as in Darren's base proposal for the home. I don't think there was any swing door robes or linens. Linen, nope, all just sliding doors. And that's all done in square meterage of the home, so there's nothing there that needs doing. Garage door, that's in the standard range, that's perfect. Standard garage door motor, nothing there that needs our attention at all. Yeah, bricks, 4582. What did we actually have? Supposedly 5045. Probably partly because our general heights were different to begin with, being that the plans have kind of been drawn showing a drop-off height that's unachievable. But secondly, the extra bricks throughout the alfresco above the door have not been allowed for. So we would have been shy on bricks 5045 by quite a considerable sum. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine. Stainless veneer tires is something we probably need to look at. Ipswich, I believe, is a little inland that we probably wouldn't require this. And 24.1. Yeah, she's way inland. So we can delete that item. And nothing else there needs our attention. Brick hardware. We get the recessed boxes for pretty much nothing. We need some lintels for those back sliding doors. So we're going to need a 21 and probably a 33, or maybe a 30, 32 potentially. Also that window there will have brickwork over. All right, so we're going to end up with a 1200. So we'll do that one there for the 2009 SW. And then we've got this one here for the 2118 SD. And then a 33 will be for the 2131 ST. So 1, 2, 3, and then everywhere else it's just windows at eave level. Now brick supplies obviously got to be guesstimated, but we've got 5,520, so we had the same supply quantity. Obviously just the amount he was paying the bricklayer was less. Now I think it's probably safe to say Brisbane. If we put in 788, 709, 788, we're going to be hedging our bets. Carpenter frame bonus is just calculated on the square meterage of the house, which is deducted in the earlier cost center. Same with these items, that's fine, that's fine. Metal ceiling battens we're not paying for, that can come out. Double blocking is required only to the al fresco because it's got the Versalux sheeting. Where's those plans? Versalux, al fresco should be 27.62. There's no cladding, there's no ceiling battens, there's no skylights, there's only one cavity slider and 2 is included in the base rate. There's one infill over the garage door. Nope. Because no bulkheads. So that looks fine. External door furniture. So we'd order one entrance set for the internal garage door. Delivery, standard SL3 externally, one of those and one of those. That's just good to go. Don't need to do anything. Come back to that in a moment. Gas. So there's no rainwater tanks that can come out. No stack points, no cold water points. We upped that to 14 downpipes. Gas we've covered off on the other cost center, so we don't need to worry about that. Metal roof we'll have to guesstimate from previous jobs. Frame length 145.48. That's good, that's good, that's good, that's good. 226.93, that's correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there should be 3 extras of those. Timber posts of 4. We're assuming N2 wind classifications. There's no extras there. Slab on ground, timber frame. The timber beams are missing. We need to pay for that for the alfresco and porch. I'm just going to make sure that that's actually in the explosion and not accidentally been deleted. It is, so it's been inadvertently deleted. No steel posts, nothing else. So comment. So we just come from the edge of the timber frame. So 11.2 plus the other one. Now we're obviously not paying for it internally because we measured through those openings and have paid them the full wall rate, even though they're potentially only putting in lintels. So we've got 15.5. Timber frame and truss, we'll have to guesstimate that. Slab will be as per we put in, being 227.48. So let's check this. All right, so the step downs will be through the garage and the porch. So if we measured along this edge here, got 11.18 plus the porch being a further 4.3 plus the garage, which is obviously going to step around the store. Of 12.9, 28.38, 2 recessed wet areas, that's correct. That's total slab. Now the recessed door tracks and sills should only be the openings of the entry doors and the sliding doors out into the alfresco. So we've got 3.048 plus 1.81 plus 1.45 plus 0.887, so it should be only 7.195. And there we go. Sounds pretty consistent. So we're assuming a same class slab. So carrying on from where we were earlier, we were going through the iEstimate, triple checking all the values that were in here currently, and just adding the items necessary. Now, this here, for example, I'm just going to mark in red for the time being. The warranty insurance, now there's no brokerage fee in Queensland, so we can likely remove that component from the standard explosion. I'm just going to do that off screen. Well, actually looks like they're not meant to be coming in anyway. They've been potentially added incorrectly. So the state is actually QLD, so this should have been 2, not 1. Now once again, we'll assume for all intents and purposes the final sale price is the inclusive GST of 2, oh, I've closed it since then, 206318.18, 226,950. Now the QBCC have their own warranty insurance published price list, which I believe I have open already anyway. This one just here. So if we assume 227,000, because they always just round up, you're 1235.1. Now that's including GST. So 1235.1 divided by 1.1 is 1122.82. Now, engineering inspections. The franchisee has since told me he does not wish to get external inspections done on the trusses. So 10075.1. So we'll be getting rid of both of those from the explosion, which I'm just doing off screen. And that will stop that item coming in as standard. Now we're going to get 1 for the slab, so we're assuming standard slabs. That's perfect. Engineering design. We need to get rid of that custom thing. We're not doing that. Now we're assuming timber frame and truss and standard slabs. So that's the fee. So temporary fencing, I think we had an allowance of 60 linear meters in the iProx. So 60 minus 42.5, which is presumably the minimum hire. $17.5, and that annoys me, that doesn't have a closing bracket. It's better. Now we're going to assume, say, probably 25 linear meters of it and standard earthworks. So we'll just say, I don't know, 60 cube. That's moving soil in both directions. Actually, probably back that off a little bit. That'll allow for about 4.5, 5 hours of site cut and spreading of soil around. House set out. Only need 1 of. I'm just going to open up a second bill of quantities for the previous house estimated to get a bit of a feel for the council fees associated out in Ipswich. So water fees were in the vicinity of 1425.5. Estimate only. There was no council fees, they were all just certifier fees. They don't need either of those. Certifier covers those expenses. The levy is part of the contract value. Now we're assuming it's generally compliant and doesn't need a building approval. There will be, however, a driveway approval and some other things that we hadn't previously covered off. So it could be about $250. Driveway fee estimate. So that sounds about right. That's fine, that's fine. Now, termites, just need to count up our penetrations in the slab. So I'm just trying to find the plans. So we got the water service coming in, which we'll just assume is coming in here. So we got one there, got two for the meter box. And then we've got one for each plumbing penetration and potentially also a conduit for the power. So one there, one there, one, 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 one. So we have a total of 16. Now the cold joints is across the face of the house where the driveway will be abutting into the house, which is just here for termite reasons, being 5.96. Now that, because that falls below the $80 plus GST, we just need to round that up. And that's the termite system done. Standard drainage, that's fine. Standard backfill. Now we had allowed for an extra 10 linear meters in the service length. We're going to assume there's one single discharge outlet or overflow. We're assuming standard setbacks, no on site. Field gullies, we're assuming M-class slab and no extra service length on the sewer. Now, as you can see, we need to now allow for the actual service lead-in. Now we're assuming underground. This meter box item doesn't allows for 20 linear meters of service length. So just put that to 0. Live connection, that's fine. The standard house, wrong house, has a total of 22 downlights, which is more than adequately serviced by a single circuit. And then we've got 2 power circuits. There's no air conditioning. There's no extras there. So we just assume there's no additional safety switches. I'm not deleting these items because they'll be useful if we do have to do upgrades. Standard Telstra and 1 standard electrical trends. Nothing else required there. Now the timber frame and truss, that's, I guess, going to be a bit of a tricky one. We're going to have to just take a bit of a punt on that basis. We've got one house which was 12,175 and its total house area was, bear with me a moment, it was a standard 24 ceiling and it was 155 3.39, which worked out at about 78.35 a square meter. Now this one had a bit more complexity in the roof line, as in there was a lot more valleys and hips, and it was a lot smaller, so you'd expect the square meter rate would get less as the house gets larger. Second to that, we have another house we've just received a quote on today, and it's a little bit more challenging. It's 2,400 ceilings with 2,700 ceilings with a couple of gables. So it's not going to be as appropriate, but it's a lot closer in scale. So if we had a look at it, it's 204.05 square meters, and the truss quote received, just waiting for this email to load, was about 12,770 as well, even though the house was substantially larger. And 2,700 ceilings. Now the house is, once again, shorter ceilings, very, very straightforward roof. I would have to say with pretty decent certainty that our square meter rate on this presence would have to be in the vicinity of, like 55 to 60 a square meter, just due to how simple it is. Let's go say 52. By 226.93, which is about 11,800, which still sounds slightly too high. So we're just going to have a second look at a Central Coast job, which is equally as metropolitan. And we had some quotes on some frame and truss for a house that was 2,400 ceilings. Actually, I think they may even be Presence Designs. So they modified saltwater 190s. And the truss quotation was 13859.34 divided by 175.87, which is closer to this original fee. I'm going to go in at about 12 grand as my allowance, only because there's not enough information to the contrary. Now I'm just going to add an allowance item in. Set all these to zeros. Now, the standard tie down that they do in Queensland is threaded rods at 1200 centres. It allows them to do less strapping and less carpentry work because they can carry that tie down from the slab all the way through the top plate. History would suggest that the tie down and bracing's in the vicinity of about $800 to $1,000. So I'm just going to put that in there. Now the metal roof, once again, we'll have a look at a couple of quotations and see how we fare based upon square meterage. So this is that same 175 square meter house. So without anti-con, which is not a standard finishing for us, 12,242 divided by 175.87, about $70 a square meter, including your guardrail. However, if I was to look at the quotation we received for roofing on the job in Queensland, and then the other job as well, so it was 155.93 square meters. And it was 9956. So about $64 a square meter, excluding just for isolation. And roof rail, standard flashing, 600 centers, standard gutter. This house, however, was $9,810. So, sorry, plus 6 plus 1010 plus 940. So on that basis, we're pretty safe saying that your roofing is going to be about 60 to 65 square meters, $65 a square meter. And if I just do house area of whatever it was, 226.93. It's indicatively how much it's going to cost. And I'll do the same thing back here, 226.93. So smoke alarms, they're a little bit different in Queensland in that they require a smoke alarm in every single bedroom, which isn't actually shown on this plan. So we've got the standard 2 allowed for, plus they would require an additional 1, 2, 3, 4. So they would have 6 smoke alarms in this house. One standard phone, 2 TVs, 2 triple switches, 1 range hood. That looks good. 22 recessed lights. No air conditioning. And 13 of those. Where's your double GPOs? 5 and 14. 2, 4, 5. And 8 plus 6 is only 14. IF at 14 and 5, and 1 outdoor for the hot water system. Alright, windows and doors I'll do in a moment. Now that's a right-hand hinged door, which is an A, so that's correct. Right hand as well. SFJ. One right hand 820 hinged and hold, that's correct. One 720 cavity slider for a 90mm wall frame, that's correct. And 1 Vaucluse 820 door, that's also correct. Certainly a large way through the job. Come back to this one. These ceiling battens and screws. So that should be 26. I don't know where he's got this from. '70 be 35. Alright, so 68 plus 25. Now, unfortunately, we can't. I just need to check these other dimensions for the architrave. Sorry, for the cladding. 10.7. That's correct. and 12.48, that's also correct, and 0 bulkheads. So on that basis, we can trust 29, 6, and then, no, that's not right, we need Versalux. Now we have the porch ceiling left, so it's 1680, so you should be able to get an 1800 sheet that way, and if we went 1800 by 900, so 1800 by 900 to get the job done. So Versalux, not as straightforward to do, we'll have to work this out. So assuming we did them this way and came out with a 1200 wide, right, so we'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows, and 3 meters. Just a fraction over 3 meters. So that's our layout, I guess. So we have 1, 2, 3, 3 at 3 meters. You got 2.4 there, so let's have a look at our lengths. We actually have 3.6s as well, but it's not really conducive, is it? So 1, 2, 3 at 3 meters leaves us with 2.4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's fine. Now the joiner. Zero 0.5 plus 0.05 plus 3.4. 3.4 divided by 3 means we need 6 links. Now, duplicates here. We only need one of those. And that's fine. So we're just going to do the plasterboard real quick. I wasn't aware that there was any niches, but there might have been one at the front door potentially. Presents. Just realized you probably couldn't see all the stuff I was doing with my setting out of Versalux. I can't see this house has any niches. So that needs a price. So presumably it's been copied over from another catalog or another franchisee's pricing, and pricing was never added for it. So we just need to see what that looks like. $2. Damn it, added another one. Nothing there of note. Now, cabinet maker. It's not a huge kitchen, but it's pretty comparable to one we just got a quote on earlier today. So I'd have to say that we're probably in the vicinity of about 6.2. Now we don't use the Dolce vanities anymore, so I need to update the explosion. Well, they actually appear to have been manually added by somebody because they're not in a current explosion. Floor wastes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Floor and wall tiles. Just going to open the Excel file and have a quick look over it. So that's going to start there and go around. Laundry tub. 750 and the 900. Yep, that looks good. I think we added a quantity sheet here out of the software. 5.04. Seems excessive. But if we actually check that, it's pretty consistent. 1 meter plus 1 meter is 2 meters a shower, bath. If we assumed it went from there and out and around, 7.72 deduction. Laundry has 0.82. WC the ons 1020, that's correct. Ensuite 2 and 2 meters. Okay, so that's all fine. So we're looking at about 50, so 48 square meters worth of total tiles. That can be deleted because we've got vinyl. That can be deleted. 5, bed and screed, wet area floors, straight off the calc sheet. 15.18 less the WC. 13.43. Skirting 18.03. And 2 vanities and 1 laundry. Hmm. bill of quantities seems far too cheap. Let's just do this quickly, knock it over. We don't think we paid any trouble on the other one. No, we did not. One plus one plus one plus one times by 1.8. Now tap flanges, assuming overhead showers, there'd be one for the mixer, 1, 2, well that's 3, 4. I mean, angle would be all of the openings plus around the shower. So 0.72 plus whatever the shower screen is here, which will be the same on both. 1.7, 1.7, 0.72, 0.72, 0.82. That's it. 6.28. Now the perimeter flashing is obviously the perimeter of the wet areas, less where there is door openings and less whether we've already paid for the shower wall itself. So the total perimeter, according to the calc sheet, I think it was 32.8. So 32.8 minus 6.28 minus the showers being 4 meters is 22.52 meters of flashing, which sounds more consistent for a house of this size. I think we're pretty safe to say we're about $5,000 with the big stacker at the back. I wonder if we've actually got a price. French door, alfresco and sliding windows. And was there any awning windows in this house? 2 double hungs at the front. Now these are indicative prices only, but will certainly be helpful. drag the plans out on one screen, Build.iQ on the other, and the price list on the other. So we have two 1809 double hungs. Which according to this should be about $328. And I think they're the only double hungs. Now for the alfresco door at the rear, 21 by what they call as a 30, 938. And 23, 932. And sliding door 21 by 18 is 471. And the 21 by 15 is 447. Sliding door, stacker door, sliding door. Now we're all into sliding windows. So 0621 SW, 3 light 216, 10-06 SW, and we have two of those. 137. -18, 198, 1809 SW, and we have two of 208, 2009, 219, 1015 is 171, and then, Jesus, I may have actually got this quantity right. 10-18 SW, is that right? 1015, 12, 1015 was 171. Then we've got the 12-15 SW, which is 180. And then we've got 10-18 SW, 186. So not far off the mark at all. Now, I think it's worthwhile noting that they have to add freight on top of this, and it's just a general indication. And I think if I allowed about 500 for freight, probably going to be pretty representative for the metropolitan area. Installation, back to the Excel file. Well, that's definitely not right. Now, I'm not... Oh, that's wrong. This is that one, potentially. Water. One passage. 1, 2, 3, 4. I only count 4. Don't know why that's 5. 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Because we do one in the walk-in robe as well. Privacy be bed 1. Bathroom WC ensuite. So 4. Passage is walk-in robe. Bed 2. Laundry. Bed 3. Bed 4. Bed 4. Bed 3. Laundry. Bed 2. Walk-in robe. It should only be 5. So we got 750 and a 900, which is good. Now we just need to fix these doors because it's distorting our architrave quantities. So we also need to check this quantity here, which is potentially wrong. So we don't want any of these robes in here because we're already entering them down here and they've already been deducted themselves personally. And we're already entering them here, so it's just doubling up. So get rid of all that. Now we've got the internal garage door, 2040 by 820 right hand, that's correct. It's already ordered on CC 445. Bed 1 is an 820 right hand, correct. Bed 2 is an 820 right hand, which is correct. Bed 3, 820 right hand, correct. Bed 4, 820 left hand, correct. Walk-in robe is a 720 left hand. WC is a lift off 720 left hand. Bath is a 720 right hand. Laundry is an 820 right hand, and the ensuite needs to be a lift off. 720 right hand. And then the pantry is a door only NA. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Now they're all 90mm wall frames, so they're all 112 trams. That goes to 2. That goes back to 8. One of those. Now we've got the doors entered over here, which is good. Now none of these openings are all that substantial, so they don't get deducted anywhere. Where these numbers come from, I'm not quite sure, but we'll recheck that in a moment. So the store is a 2200 by 1800 with a back wall of 1970, which is correct. We don't need to worry about the shelves because that's all done by supplier. No architrave facing. Yes, it's got a robe reveal. Linen is a 2200 by 1960. That is correct. The linen near the bath is a 2200, 1800 with a 2030. Is it? Yes, that's correct. Then you got a walk-in robe. So we don't need to worry about entering this here because it's an actual made door, as in it's a hinge door, not a robe door. 2870 back wall. I'm coming up with a different figure. 3540. Bed 2 is a 2200 by 1800 with 1910. 2200 by 1400 with overall robe dimensions that are unclear. It's not well enough dimensioned. 1920, I think. 1910 will do. Bed 2 is 1910, bed 3, bed 4. Pantry, because it's a made door, it doesn't need it entered. And the back wall, 2790. And the linen broom and laundry is a 22 1200. And it is 1290. And that is all the shelving everywhere, so that's good. So now our deductible openings, if we come back up here, is this plus this plus this plus this plus this, which is slightly less. Now the only other thing is the square set opening. I can just add that as a separate opening. Add that on as well. $469.19 and ceiling area of 178.73. That all looks good. The supply is going to be somewhere in the vicinity of about 730, 710, something like that, equals that. That divided by 2 plus that. So it's about 705 square meters. So the question is, haven't done this one yet. How does its labor compare though? 482 plus 172. So pretty comparable. More walls, slightly less ceiling. So the question is, do we have a quote for the plasterboard on that job? It's in the vicinity of about 4,600. So if we call it, if we go in at 5 grand, just go. Say 4850. Now that we've checked those deductions, we can come back and check this is the same. Insulation, yes, yes, that looks good. So we should have 2 of these, 8 of those, door only. Now the architraves was 56 plus 29, 85 lengths, so it was skewed by all the extra doors. And come back into my doors, 720 lift off, needs to be 2. One right hand, one left hand. Now the remaining 720s are 1 blank for the pantry, already done the ensuite, already done the WC. So that leaves us with bed 1, walk-in robe, and bathroom. So that's a left hand and a right hand. And the 820s. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 right hands and 1 left hand. Now, once again, we kind of can't necessarily do this without having an exact layout. But if I had to take a punt and say we had 49, 4 sheets, we'd have to be looking at 100 of those. I just went 2 of these, 1 of those, that you get away with 1 of those. Something like that would cut the mustard, that's for sure. Now the letterbox itself. I'll leave that the way it is for the time being.